Hey everyone, hope everybody's doing great today. Hello Facebook family, as Brian calls you guys, posties. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. Kristi Saul, the co-founder of the Post+Institute, the leader of the Parenting Inner Circle, and the head coach for the Post+Institute, coming at you live after church. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the first thing, invisible disabilities. My child, Marley, was born with spina bifida and hydrocephalus. She had a hole basically in her spine about the size of a 50-cent piece. That hole formed while she was in my womb. Spina bifida occurs during the first 4 weeks of pregnancy, and it's connected to folic acid, the ability for the mother to pass folic acid on to the baby, and also there's a connection with vitamin B. So just a little side note, if you are of childbearing age, make sure your body is able to absorb the folic acid that's in our food system. Not everybody can, and you can get tested for that. That's just a little public service announcement. My point being that, so Marley was born not able, so what happens with spina bifida is it makes a break in the communication from the brain to different parts of the body depending on where this hole is. So there's nerve damage in her spinal cord, and so because of that she is not able to walk. So I have a special van that I bought and I'm paying for anyway. That in the back is a ramp. I open the back door and the ramp comes down. I lower it and she rolls up in her wheelchair, and she hangs out right here. We connect music, and she plays me music, and we DJ and go and do whatever we do. Marley's disabilities are visible. I have to do special things so that she can access the world and be at her best. Sometimes she also, it can be exhausting because there's a lot of stimulation in the world, and a lot of times there's anxiety about whether or not a place is, we like to go to concerts, and not all venues are accessible, and not all venues have the same seating options for people who are wheelchair mobile. And so that is something that's always in my mind as her mother. How can I be an advocate for her? How can I help build her internal mechanisms so that she can cope with the world around her and be at her best? What do I need to do in my life, in my home, with the transportation I have, so that I can, so that I can be your mom and do what moms do, and so that we can have a joyful life. Children who have experienced pre-birth and early life trauma, some of them have physical disabilities, but more often and more frequent, we know that there are gaps in their emotional regulatory system development. They have sensitive amygdalas, which means that they are more sensitive to input in different ways. We all have different pathways that can be more triggering than others. I tend to be a little sound sensitive. So does my mom, by the way. And so knowing that our children have a sensitive amygdala, and in that place, that means that they likely have more cortisol pouring through their brains. They're more easily stressed out, and then that is demonstrated through oftentimes regressed behavior, hidden disabilities. Instead of seeing our children as being malicious or intentionally misbehaving, intentionally pushing our buttons, when we can see this invisible difference and help them grow and mature, help them be the best versions of themselves. That's why at the Post+Institute we teach parents, because that emotional regulatory development is available 24/7. So when we are parenting from a paradigm where we are teaching and we're working to create more of that oxytocin available in the brain, then we're helping them be their best versions of themselves. So oxytocin is created when we are in safe relationships, when our needs are being met, for adults, you know, and even kids, when we're getting safe hugs, or we're spending time with a friend, or we're having a moment where we just take in the sun coming through the windshield on my face and that it feels good. When we pause and we create that, connect with that energy, we're helping build oxytocin in our brains. And we can do the same thing for our kids. So I noticed last week there were people talking about FASD, which is fetal alcohol syndrome, children who are exposed to drugs in utero. And so those things definitely have an effect on the wiring of the brain. And this kind of parenting, you know, it doesn't necessarily remove all of these things. I mean, it's not removing the damage that's been done, but it's giving an opportunity for the brain to be at its best, and therefore helping our children be able to be at their best. And so I just want to bring more awareness to, you know, we have to do things differently, you know. A child who's got a really sensitive amygdala, you know, they may not be able to go to the circus. That may not be a good time for them. We may be asking them to do more than what they're really capable of doing. They may go to school, and that may be the max. You know, that's a lot. I was thinking about, especially, well, all kids, but my heart was really going out to kids middle school and up on Friday. Just thinking about those kids, and they're still so young, and they go to school, and they've got like 10 different bosses, right? They've got, you know, 5, 6 different teachers, the lady in the office, the principal, whoever else is going to tell them what they need to be doing, plus you, plus friends, plus, you know, their phone life and what might be going on there. I mean, they're carrying a lot. And so just to, you know, to wrap them in love. And when our little ones come home after a long day, you know, keeping in mind, gosh, you know, how do you feel when you come home after work from a long day? You're tired. You know, sometimes our kids, they just need some time to veg and a chance for their brains to recuperate from all that's being asked. And for us just to, you know, to pause and really give thought, as opposed to jumping to an insinuation or an assumption, you know, that they're being manipulative or bad, or, you know, just trying to push our buttons, or just, you know, being defiant. If we can just take some time to sort of pause a little bit, that can make all the difference in us being able to see what they need. What do they need to be able to accomplish what it is that's being asked of them? And so today, coming out of church, one of my friends stopped me, and we had a really cool little conversation, mom to mom. And she asked me about what I do. And so I just kind of gave her the short version, that I teach a different kind of parenting, a parenting from a place of understanding and love and teaching, with those tools versus the tools of control and power and physical threat. And so then she was talking about one of her children who is autistic. And so we just talked about the sensitive amygdala. We talked about the power of love. We talked about the power of oxytocin. She was like, you know, I think that's why she does so well. You know, she is able to see so many wonderful abilities in her child, even though there's struggles. You know, there's all the same struggles that can come with being on the autism spectrum, sensitivities to touch, or maybe some, you know, being really rigid in routines. And she talked about a couple of specific things that she's just not cracked the code on. So we brainstormed about it together. But what I really liked about the conversation was she said, yeah, you know, I've really noticed, and, you know, we're friends, you know, we're good friends. I know her family's been walking through some, you know, just life, you know, losses that have been hard, decisions they've had to make that have been difficult, things that stress us out as adults. And so she said, I know, I've noticed that when I'm stressed, that the things that I find, these quirky behaviors that sometimes can be really annoying, that they're more frequent. So the more stressed I am, my stress adds to my child's anxiety. It elevates the cortisol, and that leaves her not being able to be at her best. And I just loved the insight that she shared, that understanding, that connection. And so I guess the mission here really then becomes for us as adults to, we have to really take care of ourselves. Our calm is dependent on, our ability to be calm and regulated, to be loving and supportive and understanding and, all those things really, it helps our children, especially our children who are very stress sensitive. It helps them be at their best. And so, sometimes it's hard for us to take time for self-care. We feel like everybody needs us and everything feels like a crisis. But if we can just stop, and self-care doesn't, if you have the privilege of going to the spa, by all means, go to the spa. But, we can't all do that. And we don't all have time for that. We don't even have somebody to watch our kids while we go to the spa. So sometimes we have to learn how to connect with a loving source. I say, whether you worry, meditate, or pray, it's all energy. So if you're worried about stuff, then it's time to shift that worry into something more constructive. Shift that into prayer. Shift that into connecting with a higher power of love. Shift that into asking for internal calm through meditation. Shift it into something productive, because worry is just, that's just fear being magnified and ruminated over. It's not really getting us to a place where we are more calm. And so finding ways to stay grounded in the moment, finding ways to, in the moment, notice something, experience gratitude, take these little internal pauses, can be, sometimes that's the only thing we have to keep us going from moment to moment. Learning how to simply pause. We talk to our kids all the time about just stop and think, just stop and think, just stop and think. They're in the moment, they're feeling. They're responding out of emotion, not thought. And we know, this is what we know. We know that in a moment when our brains are hijacked, there is no thought. Brian says it 1,000,000 times. It's been shown, it has been shown repeatedly scientifically that in the moment, our brains are being ran by our subconscious, not our conscious. The act of bringing something to our conscious level takes oxytocin. It takes oxytocin to calm the cortisol enough to go, there's not a bear in the woods. We don't have to be terrified. We are safe. It's going to be okay. But we have to have that oxytocin available, and that's how we get it. So, I just want to offer you guys that story, that insight, that understanding of why we work with parents is because we know healing occurs in the 24/7. Therapy is great, but it's the 24/7 relationships that have the greatest impact. And so feed yourself. Take that. Don't worry about being able to take an hour for self-care. Take 5 minutes. Take 30 seconds just to sit, pause, breathe. 3 deep breaths. Let your brain catch up for just a minute. Calm down. What do we need to do? My first post this morning on Facebook was time in. Time in. Give yourself some time in, and then go spread some of that love on your children. Much love to you guys. Enjoy your Sunday. Stay blessed.